Let me ask you something. How would you feel walking down a sidewalk of the most crowded street in town, only to see a random person you've never even seen before selling images and videos of illegal material just down the road? And yeah, I mean that kind of illegal material. You're disgusted, confused, angry, and overall, you can't imagine how sick someone has to be to partake in this. To your shock, there are two policemen having lunch at the restaurant just across the street, and people are walking by not even batting an eye.
Honestly, I think Twitter's kind of a terrible platform and should be changed.
You start yelling about this person to everyone running past, and some stand there in shock with you, only to walk away after a short while, whilst others just ignore you. You learn they've apparently been selling this stuff in town for 3 or more years, and very rarely do the police do anything. At most, they just yell at them to keep it down and sometimes force them to leave.
Would you shut up so people don't see you?
Only for them to reappear at another major street a couple days later. And in your frustration, you approach the person selling this material, only for you to realize something odd as you get closer. This isn't some older man as you expected. Rather, it's a teenage girl. This is the current reality of Twitter, an uncontrolled mess of a platform that, unlike Facebook or Instagram, which prioritizes putting your real identity out there, Twitter incentivizes partial or full anonymity, which allows it to become a safe space for horrible people. Of course, anonymity is important, but if you throw a sugar cube on the ground, you shouldn't be confused about the ants piling onto it. And with the advent of the Internet of Things alongside the horrific circle of child grooming, the magnitude of this problem is only getting larger as we speak. In this video, I'm going to be going over a few major things, essentially descending an iceberg, although this is definitely not an iceberg video, of horrific crime, child abuse, and internet depravity that is surprisingly common on the platform. Once this video is over, you'll see what I mean by this, but first, an intro to the whole situation. I need to explain two terms, which are actually acronyms. The first of these being MAP, M-A-P, or Minor Attracted Person. This is just a stupid term to refer to pedophile, so MAP will now be referred to as pedophile for the rest of the video. The second term, though, is AM, or AAM, which means Adult Attracted Minor. It is an incredibly sad and unfortunate thing to see someone as. It likely means they were groomed from a very young age, especially those who are younger teenagers, and oftentimes end up becoming predators themselves. It is actually incredibly easy to find these people compared to pedophiles. Nowhere is it quicker to find this type of behavior, though, than Twitter, and, as of recent, it has become a sort of hub for this sort of activity. Although it'd be the day hell froze over if this was an iceberg video, allow me to use that analogy to describe the rapidly descending world of Twitter's industrial scale marketplace for illegal content. We begin at the boundary between air and water, at something that is still incredibly morally depraved and genuinely disgusting. Yet, unfortunately, it lies within a legal gray area. Shotokan and Cub art. Both of these words, meant for non-furry and furry art respectively, are essentially drawn illegal content. And yeah, I mean that same illegal content. Both, especially the latter, have many thousands of people following artists who draw them and, essentially, partially desensitizing themselves to the actions and effects of child abuse. If you try and comment on how dangerous these two art forms are, you'll usually be met with the same bullshit argument that it, quote, isn't real so it isn't harming people. And for those people, I present an infamous figure I've covered here before, Andrew. Before he was eradicated off the face of the internet, much of the things he referenced and indulged in on his private Twitter surrounded this type of art. And I also have information that several furry NSFW artists, all having over 10,000 followers, are both zoophiles and pedophiles. Of which, if you know any, please contact me at screechy#3703 after reporting the relevant evidence to Twitter. There's a bit of a two-faced situation here, where some artists, Andrew included, will have both a public and a private face. One that is, albeit gross, but pretty benign, and one that is deeply disturbing. Being surrounded by sexually stimulating material for your entire online career leads to this simple pipeline. Desensitization leads to seeking more taboo things, which leads to desensitization for that material, which leads to seeking more taboo things, etc. It just keeps going. And although not everyone who partakes in this is necessarily going to go down that slippery slope, it definitely seems more common than not. This is why the whole, quote, it's just drawn images of children argument is stupid. It's a pipeline that leads to either consuming material with child abuse in it or physically abusing children themselves, whether it be emotional or physically. If you know somebody who is consuming this content, they need to be made aware of their addiction. Denial is the first and hardest stage of addiction to overcome. But once it has happened, it's a matter of willpower, specifically for things like consumption of pornography. Now, as we dive below the water, I'm going to explore some examples of these accounts. Any account showcased will be heavily censored for the safety of the minors involved and to protect anyone under the age of 18 watching my videos. So for this section, I'm going to be going over some accounts that I have saved that are in varying levels of pedophilia or just gross art, and just kind of going over each one as I come across them. So this first one, the bio is, I'm a pretty big fan of Cubs and Shota's NSFW account. I don't RP, but feel free to DM me for whatever reason. Only boys here. And literally, this guy's entire account is just Cub and Shota art. That's the entire account. And what's more disturbing is that this guy has 573 followers. Many zoophiles, literally one of the second accounts I see on here is a zoophile. Scrolling down more, we see lots of private accounts, which are often pedophiles. You can see Age in DMs, Spanglish, Karina fan account, You May Ask for My Snap, Loves Maps. By the way, people use the map emoji to basically say they're pedophiles. Into a lot of things, needs a goon dad. Wow, okay. And just a couple posts down on this account, I saw by far one of the most disgusting and depraved pieces of art I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of stuff on the internet. I've been here for a long time, but this isn't disturbing just because it's Cub art, but because the subject matter is so far removed from reality and so unbelievably disturbing that it really makes my stomach turn when I see it. I'm obviously not going to show the image, but for reference, the caption is, "Lo estoy haciendo bien, papi. Algo más que te pueda ayudar." Which roughly means, am I doing okay, daddy? Anything else that can help you? Like, what the fuck, dude? Here's an example of an account that is just for Shota, in this case. With the bio reading, 18 plus account, am almost 30. Shota Feet's biggest simp is back to fill Shota Twitter timelines with lots of feet. Fiction only, so I guess there's no problem. Remember, always, souls reflect the soul, whatever the fuck that means. With the pinned fucking tweet saying, now for my usual random poll. Which Genshin boy would give the best foot job? Don't forget to share it around. Just to go through a couple more really quickly, because it's more of the same. This guy's a married dude from Maryland who follows a bunch of children who are, in and of themselves, adult-attracted minors. And this person's some weird, I don't even know what's going on this page. There's nothing like crazy, but they follow a bunch of kids too. This guy has been on Twitter since January of 2017, and in his bio says he is a 25-year-old male pedophile. And just kind of a testament to how mentally scarred and abused many of these adult-attracted minors are. Literally the pinned tweet on this guy's profile is from an adult-attracted minor saying, making a hashtag, which in this case is related to adult-attracted minors, and a hashtag that in this case is related to pedophiles, group chat. Retweet if you're interested with a heart. That is so incredibly disturbing that a child is willingly making a group chat with other children who are willing to be groomed and abused by adults who are also in on this. I mean, seriously, look at the amount of comments, likes, and retweets that are on this post. The amount of people who are willing and able to participate in a group chat that is straight up illegal in most of the world is mind-boggling, and the fact that this is happening basically openly on Twitter is incredibly disturbing. Moving on from here though, I'll showcase the accounts of some quote-unquote adult-attracted minors. In this case, obviously, just like before, they'll be incredibly censored, and please do not actively seek these people out. You're making their lives worse than they probably already are, so just don't even go looking for them. You'll see though that many of these accounts are very similar in how they're laid out and just their kind of general aesthetic, I guess you could say. Looking at this account, honestly, is just incredibly, really depressing, and clearly this kid is somewhere in between the age range of 14 and 16. It's not explicitly stated, which just kind of adds to how terrible it is. You scroll down just a little bit into their actual posts on Twitter, and one of them reads, I want a dad who can turn me into a addict. Tell me to bait for you all day. Encourage me to spend all my time thinking of taboo, horny thoughts. I'm not even going to read the rest of that. Here's an image of one of them that I'm not even going to read, but I will censor some things. And then the one immediately below it is equally disturbing, and honestly, I just don't get why this hasn't been talked about more. Like I said, this is so easy to find. There's no underground communities, there's no dark web forums. This is on the surface web, on the surface of Twitter. And I know it's pretty hard to control, but the fact that no one, including Twitter, has really come out about how despicable all of what's going on is really confusing to me. This last account, though, really goes to show how deep and how dangerous this problem is. This is an example of a 14-year-old girl who is so forward and so outwardly disgusting that it is the direct result of years and years of emotional and physical abuse. God forbid physical abuse actually happened, but certainly she has been groomed and abused from a very young age, only being 14 years old. I'm not even gonna read anything from this account because 90% of the shit that's on here is absolutely disgusting, but I will put some images up just as a showcase. From viewing those accounts, you may still be confused as to why I deem this to be a, quote, industrialization of illegal content, but let me show you an example of a card website with 2 R's made by a 14-year-old girl wherein she herself sells illicit photos of herself to paying customers. Starting at the top of this webpage, we just see an introduction, basic introduction, obviously with provocative image included. And as we scroll down, we see an about section saying all about the person, saying, I'm 14, I live in this location, my pronouns are she, her, I'm bisexual, I love bunnies and cats, and I'm a sub. With some face or whatever. As we scroll down, we get a very, very revealing list of kinks. Some of them are actually really kind of disgusting, ignoring the fact that they kind of play into pedophilia too. And then the darkest part of this page comes directly below this section, literally called This Person's Menu, labeling the price for someone to pay in order to get illicit photos from this 14-year-old girl. And the thing is, this is unfortunately common. There are a lot of websites out there listed by these adult-attracted minors giving literal menu prices for photos of themselves. I'm gonna leave this part there, though. I think you've definitely seen enough. I've certainly seen enough. I'm getting sick and tired of just looking at this shit, and I need to take a break. So I'm just gonna move on. This is an unfortunately common example of this type of behavior. Through my research, I've discovered no less than 5 accounts offering illicit materials to paying customers within a 30-minute period of research. Fortunately, I didn't find anything illegal in and of itself, but even as Twitter strongly speaks up against pedophiles who believe that loving children is a sexuality, they clearly won't do enough to stop this. I won't disclose the hashtag I used to find literally hundreds of these accounts because I don't wish to publicize it. Just know that the hashtag in and of itself was incredibly basic and was super easy to find. And from that, there's a bunch of these accounts just sitting on the surface of Twitter in broad daylight. As stated earlier, this behavior almost always results from horrific levels of grooming and sexual abuse among children who both have unrestricted internet access and accidentally have been manipulated into behaving a certain way by a bad actor. Almost never is the child or the parent at fault. However, it is simply an incredibly unlucky mistake many children get wrapped up in whilst they're too young to understand. Thus, these minors have learned how to cater to the taboo and horrific desires of various porn-addicted and mentally abhorrent adults on Twitter. Although I'll always be an ardent supporter of internet privacy to the highest degree, there has to be a line in the sand for behavior like this. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a computer science major or that I know how to create a moderation system to fully eradicate a problem of this magnitude. However, there comes a point that Twitter needs to openly acknowledge the existence of this behavior on their platform for everyone to hear. If they were a private company, maybe they'd come to terms with this. However, as a publicly traded company who relies off positive information to keep both the general public and board members satisfied, not acknowledging any information like this is a detriment to, presumably, thousands of children who were or are currently wrapped up in this behavior. They are actively ignoring the fact that children are being, essentially, groomed into becoming groomers themselves when they are older. I'm not asking for an extremely invasive account monitoring solution, but I'm asking for awareness. I know many videos have been made on a topic similar to this, but the fact of the matter is that no others, including myself, have even scratched the surface of the situation. There are so many secret communities, personalities, and marketplaces for illegal content on Twitter that cannot even begin to be dug out when the company actively harboring and knowingly ignoring them stays silent. The footage I've shown here is about as deep as the iceberg goes today. And for many of you, it might be the deepest look you've ever had into this problem. I'll never force you to support me, but if you like my investigative and more deep dive content, please be sure to subscribe and comment down below if you like this content. It really helps me out, and it helps also get the word out there and helps the video be seen by more people. One last thing I'll say is this. Although I won't say names, as I mentioned earlier, I'm aware of 3 individuals in the furry NSFW art community, of whom they all have over 10,000 followers each. They've engaged in behaviors like this too. If you know of any information, contact the relevant authorities first, and if you want your voice to be heard, contact me at Screechy #3703. The amount of people you could be saving who are being abused, or could be abused by bad actors on Twitter, Roblox, or any other platform is far greater in magnitude than either you or me could understand. By now though, you may have noticed this is going to be a 2-part series. It's this way because this is only half the story. I won't reveal every detail yet, but I'll be releasing a trailer source before the second part drops for anyone interested. I'll leave a cryptic yet easily solvable hint if you're into code breaking. Sting. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.